I remember when I was growing up, my brother used to beat me a lot. Huh? You Sec 3, you got boyfriend? Oh my God.
I had this case once of this baby, only 4 months old.
Oh dear, 4 months old.
The hospital started noticing I had fracture.
Yeah, I want to divorce this guy and then I just pretend to pinch myself.
Oh yeah, he abused me.
I mean, not that any guy want to marry me lah. Hello everyone and welcome to a very special episode of the Irene Ang Show. This series, actually two-part series, it's called Let's Break the Silence Together. And I have here heroes who are helping us to break the silence, okay? And today we're going to talk about something that's actually not so talked about often, but of late I've seen some headlines and stuff, and I thought it's a good time for us to address it in Singapore as the sector which I understand is called the protection ecosystem. And a lot of people like myself are ignorant and we are not aware there's a huge ecosystem, and they did some research. It's this circle, then got this circle, then got the police, then got the school, then okay? So we have some key people in the ecosystem here with us. But before we dive into it, I want us to meet the human behind this ecosystem first. And let's meet Ronak, Jasmine and Jade. Clap please! Today I invited some friends here, got live audience. 7 of them. Huh? So why don't you introduce yourself and share with the audience what is your role in this ecosystem?
My name is Ronak. I work in MSF Protective Service. So I'm a protection officer. My main role is really to come in when we get reports of abuse and neglect and try to help the family through the situation, safety plan for the child to be safe, and work towards long-term safety for everyone.
Hi, I'm Jasmine. I am Montfort Child Protection Specialist Centre. I'm the Deputy Director there, but I'm social work trained. So I actually support, like my team in actually working with children and families who have experienced abuse and neglect. So we actually work with the more moderate risk cases. So we also go in and work with families and children to safety plan and ensure that they can be actually continue to be with their families in the community.
And for myself, so in the role of an ECDA fellow, what I do is that I work very closely with the Early Childhood Development Agency to drive sector improvements. And I also mentor leaders who work in preschools to actually help improve the services of preschools. So more of like capability development. And another part of the work involves collaborating with parents and the broader community to ensure that children are safe and that we give them the best start.
Let's say we start with Ronak, right? Understand that when a case starts, it starts with NAVH, okay? According to my research, and NAVH is the National Anti-Violence and Sexual Harassment Helpline.
Yes.
Yeah. Walk us through from there, how do you come into the picture?
NAVH for short, right, is one source where we get reports. So when someone calls into NAVH, their identities are protected. So what that means is that they can report abuse or neglect. So this can be anyone in the family system, or any neighbor, or anyone who knows about the situation.
Okay, so it don't have to be the victim lah.
Don't have to be. So the victims can call in themselves if they need to as well.
Or I see my mother being beaten by my father, I can call also lah.
Yes, yeah. So anyone that is involved that wants to help can call in. Their identities are protected. So what that means is that, of course, we need to know who's calling, right? How are they related? So we can verify some information, but we don't disclose to the family who is the person who reported. So that's kept confidential.
And like which neighbor? Your downstairs neighbor, the directly one cannot, right?
No. Yeah. So what we normally tell families is, for example, we get information from various sources, and people are concerned about something that's happening. So if we assess that there's a need to kind of come in a bit more, so normally we try and see, okay, is there a way for the family to receive some form of support? I think, like what Jasmine mentioned, she handles some of the moderate cases in her agency. So we see if some cases can be supported at the community by a family service centre or a protection specialist centre. But some cases need more intensive intervention, need someone to come down immediately or as soon as possible to see whether things are okay.
What I was very curious about Jasmine was that she mentioned that she works with a child protection specialist. So you mean that under your protection ecosystem there is different like a child got adult one, is it?
There are different tierings actually.
Yeah, then got moderate and what is the one?
Yes.
It's like what Spotify subscription. So it's moderate and what?
Moderate risk. So we actually look at, like a few factors to see whether how do you right side the family in which agency. So I mean, like for us, in Montfort Care Child Protection, we handle, like families, who are actually willing to work with community partners like us, as well as, probably the risk of harm is actually categorized as moderate. So some examples, would be, children who have experienced, like harsh physical punishment, like from parents.
So that is not really violent, but just harsh punishment.
It's considered violence, yes. But actually, they are willing to work to see actually how can they change, in terms of how they nurture and care for their children, and are willing to work with us. So then we don't need a statutory intervention to come in like Ronak's team.
Let's come to Jane. How is the preschool involved in this ecosystem?
Yeah, so for preschools, we're actually one of the touch points in the community.
Oh, it's called touch points.
Yeah.
What are the other touch points?
To help detect. So the other touch points for children could be, the family service centres or even hospitals.
Oh, okay, hospital if they come in
Yes.
injured. Police. Okay. So as a preschool, how are you a touch point?
So in being a touch point, we help to detect and report potential or possible abuse. So for instance, educators may notice, say, sudden behavioural changes or unexplained injuries, and perhaps even withdrawal without valid reasons. So it may not always be clear to us, right, that as educators or leaders that, this is abuse.
Yep.
So what we do is we use this sector-specific screening guide, and that would then help us to assess the situation and decide on the next steps. So using this guide and the outcomes in this guide, maybe the case could be a case of serious or say sexual abuse. Then it means preschools must report within 2 hours. Yeah, and as opposed to the not so serious cases, so those will be reported within 24 hours.
Then, how does one get into the system of Montfort Care and CPSC, and what do you do once it comes into your system?
So actually quite similar. We do get referrals. We call it referrals, like from different sources. So it could be from NAVH after actually they assess that it can be right-sited in our community agency. It can be from other social service agencies. It can be from schools and hospitals. Yeah, so actually same thing once, like we get the referral, then that's where we will actually make contact, like with the family to engage them, to understand actually what are the challenges, that is actually preventing them from having a safe and nurturing environment for their children. So we engage family in safety planning. I think once we ensure, that the environment is safe already, that's where we go in to provide what we call interventions. So it could be in terms of actually how can parents adopt positive parenting strategies, as well as ways actually children can keep themselves safe. So actually, I think compared to probably Ronak's, role, our role is a little bit more unique. So we play both the control as well as the change function. So the control function meaning that we ensure that the safety plan that we have agreed with the family is adhered to. Change function is where we go in to actually put in, strategies so that actually parents can do things differently so that they can maintain a safe.
Because yours is not the serious case yet, lah.
Moderate. So there is concern, but probably not so high yet that requires statutory intervention, so we can still work with them. Okay,
so Ronak, just want to ask you, for her case is the middle one, do you handle all sizes? Yeah. Would I call it sizes or all?
We talk about it in terms of
intensity. All risk. We learn something, okay? All risk level, okay.
I think also you asked a question earlier about what does it mean to have all these different tiers of risk, right? I think it really depends on the assessment of the family. So sometimes, some cases we get it and actually we don't know much about the situation yet. But there could be certain risk factors, for example, the extent of the injury on the child or some of the social factors. So sometimes these cases need a period of investigation, right? So these cases will come to us for us to find out a bit more. And when I say investigation, it's not like police investigation, it's a social investigation.
So you all will have some techniques to investigate whether the child or the parent is lying, for example, or the severity of this abuse.
Yeah, I think...
Okay, don't need to tell me the technique lah. I'm just saying you all got this kind of technique, all right?
I mean, it's not...
I got watch TV, Netflix got a lot of this kind of show, though.
Actually, you asked a very good question because that's also why I distinguish it from a criminal investigation.
Yes.
A social investigation is not always about, for example, finding the absolute truth. Because actually everyone has a different perception.
Everyone have their own truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? My optics is this, right? Then this is my truth, ma. What matters most is the safety of the child, isn't it? So, I remember when I was growing up, my brother used to beat me a lot, and his reason was because my parents are not around, and he felt like he has to protect me. So if I come home late, I get beaten up. You know, if a guy call me, a boy call me, he like, why is this guy calling you every day? I think it's my boyfriend. Huh? You Sec 3, you got boyfriend? Like, you know, that kind of, oh my God. So his perception is, I'm just being the big brother, and I want to protect you. I don't want anybody to take advantage of you. Then my optic is, it's none of your business. You know, so we both think they are right.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's really what we want to try to get at, right? What's the motivation for why this behavior happens? Right? Sometimes it comes out of a good place, but they don't have the skills to maybe do it in the right way, in the way that they want to, right? Sometimes there's other factors, right? So for some cases, you know, for example, sexual abuse cases, right? These can be a bit more severe, that need more intervention. So we investigate, and then some cases, then we will send it to our partners like Montfort to help with intervention. So we'll flow to them, or some cases we'll hold it for us to manage. So high risk cases, we'll continue managing.
And then when do you involve the police and the courts and all that?
So when anything criminal happens, so if there's any kind of criminal case, right, we'll involve the police from the get-go. Yeah, so there can either be reports that is filed. So this is really an ecosystem, like.
Yeah. I tell you honestly, I went to try to research the ecosystem until I lost because a lot of people is involved. That's why I thought I should do an episode of this so that at least you all know the basic. You know, I want to know like when do the police come to get involved and what is considered a criminal case.
So maybe I can go through how a case will come through from start to end. Yeah. So let's say,
pay attention, okay?
So let's say someone calls into NAVH and they make a report, and after that we decide actually there's a need for further investigation. What might happen is we will try to engage the family, we'll meet them, talk to the child separately first, and maybe talk to the parents to understand a bit more about the context. If there's any kind of injury on the child, or if we get reports of something very serious like sexual abuse or severe injuries, then we'll bring the child for a medical exam, and there can also be concurrently a police report filed.
Could the parents hide the injury, then you cannot see, right? Like wear like maybe a hoodie for the boy or something, and then actually inside got like what, cane marks, cut marks, no? Yeah. Have you ever seen before?
You know, injuries can be all over the body, right? I think that's why we work with, for example, preschool sites. Sometimes they will notice certain injuries, but some injuries we are not able to check physically. That's when we bring to the hospital, and then a medical doctor will be the one that does the check. So the medical team will then also make an assessment about whether these injuries are serious, are they likely from accident or is it non-accidental in nature. Yeah.
I mean, one time is accident, but if every 2-3 weeks the child come to school with like bruises everywhere, then cannot be, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's the number of times, it's the location.
But do you have rights to go to the house to check?
Yeah, so as part of our duty investigating, under the Children and Young Persons Act, the CYPA, there's legislation that authorizes us to take certain actions to investigate, to find out more.
So you have power, Ronak?
Yes.
So you guys are not just protection officers, you guys are superheroes. Yeah, people, Marvel got the Marvel heroes, you are the marvelous hero of Singapore. How nice is the name?
Never been called that, but
never been called that. I shall start calling you guys there. What kind of protection officer? Not very nice, the name. Must be called marvelous hero. Then people scared. You know, they don't dare to do anything. What do you think? Let's talk about the outfit later, the capes and stuff. Okay, jokes aside, I think what you do is very noble and very admirable. So just now we mentioned about community touch points and social workers to identify and address potential signs of domestic violences. What are some of the signs? Yeah, how can one tell, or how, from where can I notice that actually my downstairs, this auntie, the child is actually being abused? How would I know?
As long as someone has suspicions, you can always report into the hotline. I think that's just to put it out there first. If you're never sure, right, I think it's always safer to call in and report first. But some of the indicators that help, right, is it really depends on the type of abuse. So, but we can always see the impact of abuse on the child in terms of their behaviors. We see sometimes what we call symptoms of some trauma. So they could be either very withdrawn or sometimes very hyperactive or very vigilant.
Two extremes.
Yes, yeah, because trauma can manifest in different ways, right? It really depends on how you try to survive in the environment and what helps you to survive in the environment. Because we deal with not just abuse in terms of physical abuse, there's also neglect, there can also be psychological abuse, sexual abuse. So there's a wide variety. And that's why it's also important that we have all of these different touch points, because they all see the child in different settings. So that's why I always say that actually we work with so many people, because we work with everyone that's ever involved in a child's life, from the school, from the family.
Hospitals, police, medical professional, the clinic downstairs. I mean, especially those HDB downstairs, those clinic, right? Because usually you go there and see, right? And how active are these doctors? Do you all talk to them to tell them, say, please, do you all train them to say if you see these kind of cases? Or in fact, I think the best person to train is maybe the hawker center auntie, you know, or the coffee shop auntie, because they see the kids like, hey, suddenly how come the kids so quiet or what? Do you all engage this sort of on ground people?
Yeah, so recently also MSF has started doing some trainings as well. So there's multiple rounds of trainings with multiple professionals, and one of them is also some service providers and hawker centers and things like that. But Jane earlier mentioned about the sector-specific screening guide, right? So for each agency, each industry, actually we have a guide that's specific to them, to what they might also interact with. So for example, the hospitals, the doctors you're talking about, they also have their own screening guide. Yeah, so they can refer to it, and based on that, then they can make a report.
But I sometimes wonder what if it's a false report? Yeah, what if people lie to you? Like let's say I want to divorce this guy, and then I just pretend to pinch myself.
Oh yeah, he abused me.
I mean, not that any guy want to marry me lah, but you know, in case lah. Does it happen before the people like falsely accuse someone?
I think every report that comes in, we try to take it seriously. We try to see where it's coming from. But that's also why the investigation portion is critical, right? So it's not just about trying to find out what happened, but also trying to find out what's the level of risk, what exactly contributes to the situation. So let's say, for example, we get these reports, but then actually there's no other information that suggests anything. So if we go and talk to the child, things are fine, and actually there's no signs of abuse, we might see, okay, in this case, maybe it doesn't need a higher tier intervention, but the family needs some level of support. Let's say, for example, in your example, maybe the family actually still wants counselling, even if it's not a high-risk situation. FSC could, for example, still support the family. Yeah, so it's making sure that it's not we're dismissing the concerns, but we're trying to make sure they go to the right source.
So even with such a strong system in place, right, I'm very sure there are some cases that's really like break your heart, that either miss the system or, you know, like, is there anyone that you most memorable to you?
I had this case once of this baby, only 4 months old, right? And actually the hospital started noticing injuries on the baby's head, so a head fracture. And it was very suspicious because actually the parents were not able to give a very clear account of why the injury happened. So we came in to investigate, and actually we found a lot of different concerns as we investigated more. And there's a lot of neglect concerns. So both parents, actually, both of them had mild ID, and they were supported in the care by their own adoptive parents. So I think everyone had good intentions, but they didn't really know how to care for the child properly. And this led to, I think, the injuries happening. We also found out actually there was also an older sibling, and this older sibling also had some neglect concerns as well, wasn't going to school regularly, had some developmental concerns. So we had to work with the hospital, right, to get the child assessed, get the child to be...
Oh dear, 4 months old.
Yeah, 4 months old. Yeah, then we had to work with a family service center nearby also to start providing intervention. And then we also were trying to find out actually where can this child stay. Because I think what became clear is that it was very hard for parents to care for 2 children with high needs. They have one child who had all his developmental needs, and the younger child who now has his high medical needs because of the fracture. So we had to explore working with the extended relatives. So actually we found the maternal grandparents, and they actually live very close by, just a few blocks over, but they had actually cut contact with the family. This set of parents actually had cut contact with them. Yeah, so this is a very complex situation where I think over time the relationship soured. Then we were trying to assess, and I mean, for us, ideally the child should always stay with carers that are familiar or within the family system. But I think actually why I bring up this story, right, is because I think it shows a few things. One is that
They're not bad people.
they're not bad people. Yeah, actually sometimes behaviors happen because of certain contexts.
Correct.
Right, there's certain motivations that they have.
Because people just judge like, oh, you like that means you're bad, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, that's also the whole part of the investigation, trying to find out more to understand actually why do they behave this way. Right? So then the child was able to stay with them, forever, and then grow up in this environment with their carers all around them.
We need more protection officers who actually, you should, like I said, you should be called marvelous officer, right? Because you not only protect, you reconcile, you glue back also. So your role is gluing.
I think we work together with everyone. Yeah. So sometimes we might not be the ones doing that restorative
No,
work.
you cannot be one person, right?
Yeah.
So Dr. Glue, thank you. Sometimes I see when things happen and I see headlines, right? And then you go online and then you just see people commenting, oh, the school should have done this, like, why the police never do this. Actually, it's so much more complex and there's so much that you guys have divided your role so well and have fought continuously for policy, which we'll find out next week more about the policy changes. But the teamwork is not just within your own organisation, right? You actually have to it's almost like volleyball. I hit, then I throw to you, then you must catch and then you throw back, right? It's teamwork, not just within your job, it's not just within your organisation. No?
We are a team.
Yeah. And this is just one small little segment of the team, right? For example, you work with which organisations the most? You probably police and courts.
Police, courts, a lot of social service agencies, so family service centres and protection specialist centres. And schools, actually schools are a very big partner for us.
School is very big. And Jasmine, you work with?
Similar, our counterparts from MSF, schools, hospitals, family service centre, or even youth agencies if let's say they are linked up to. So it depends on the needs of the family.
Yours is more child protection, right?
Child protection.
Yeah, and you do all kind of protection.
Yeah,
adults also.
We look at vulnerable adults, so these are adults that maybe don't have the mental capacity to keep themselves safe, like for much older or for children as well.
What are some of the most memorable challenges and how did you overcome them?
For me, I think one case that stayed with me would be a K1 child who suddenly showed a lot of reluctance to when it was going home time, so during dismissal. And this child had also sudden emotional outbursts, but she used to be very happy and always looks forward to going home. So when there's a sudden behavioral change, that's what triggered the educator to then ask, whether anything is happening at home. So instead of us making assumptions first, so we check in with the child, and through these honest, open conversations, the child then revealed that actually the parents are going through a divorce and also financial hardship that was involved in this case. So it relates a bit to the spousal part of things that Ronak talked about. But in this case, I guess the key thing is the child is clearly affected, whether it is domestic violence or divorce or financial hardship, because the child is unhappy. So at the very core of it is, what is it that we are doing about the child's well-being? So the win in this case is really not about identifying the issue for us, but in the difference that the timely integrated support made. So the family was connected to social worker, and then the social worker helped to support them to get through that difficult times. So when we talk about wins like this, it's very small milestones for children or for many, but actually for early childhood leaders and educators, these mean a lot because it anchors on the child's well-being.
I think it's by no means small, because if you didn't intervene at that stage, it could become something big. You never know, it could even be a life-saving thing, because nobody's going to know what happened if you didn't stop it there, right? Or intervene or resolve it. Just now, because of what Jane shared, I think it brings to my attention that early intervention is so important. Was there anything that helped you to turn a difficult situation around?
For the preschools, I think what really makes the difference is the presence of a trusting relationship and the collaborative partnership, so among the parents, the educators and the support agencies. So in the linking back to the case that I mentioned earlier, where perhaps the parent gets a bit agitated at first, or they may even be in denial when something happens or when you try asking a question. But the end outcome, when the parent feels your sincerity and the genuine care and concern you have for the child, is what turns it around. Because then these conversations are handled with a lot of care, respect and professionalism, and that helps them to know that, yes, because you care, that's why you ask. And when you ask, it gives me an opportunity to clarify, and that we are not judging them, we're not making assumptions about what happened.
So like, am I right to say that, because one of the reasons why I wanted to do this app is I feel like quite strongly that the child protection is not just your job. It is my job too, you know. It is his job, her job as well, you know. But how can we do our job better is hopefully by interacting with you guys can teach us some basic, you know, what are some of the basic tools you can impart with us.
I think it's really important not to be deterred by the label of being a busybody, because it's really a crucial role that we play, and essential that everyone in the community, whether you're a parent, an educator, a neighbor, a friend, all play this role to actually keep the child safe. And reporting or sharing that information may well save a child's life.
That's true. You may think you're just being kepo, but I'd rather be called kepo than to regret later I could have done something. How about yourself, Jasmine?
I think for me, actually, I remember that there's this case whereby it's actually referred to us because the child presented in school with multiple cane marks. So the school actually reported the case to us. So after that, we found out that actually the parents are having a lot of challenges, you know, like in the child's school performance and results. So that's when actually the father snapped and then cane a lot of times. So multiple cane marks went in. But actually after that, when we went in, right, the parents are actually very open and receptive. We were able to talk through some of the challenges they have, including screen time usage, some parenting differences, and eventually actually we managed to stabilize. And same thing also, there's grandparents also involved in the picture. And thereafter, actually, when we are going to close the case, right, the parents say that actually, can y'all don't leave or not? Can y'all continue to work with us?
Oh, really? That's nice.
Yes, yes. So I think amidst all the challenging cases that we have, there are parents and families, you know, like who actually are very appreciative of the help when we come in at a very timely manner.
Because there's many different forms of violence as well. So in this case, one big form of violence was this thing we call coercive control. So the partner would always monitor her whereabouts, her finances, restrict her access to people, her support system. So that level of control eventually it isolated her from any source of support, and she only saw the partner as someone that she could turn to. So I would go down for home visits to try to engage the partner, but he'd be very aggressive. He would slam the door, he would not let us come in. So it led to the point where eventually, because there were so many incidences, eventually we had to even remove the child. It was a very difficult decision for me to also make at that time, because we see that mom cares for the child, we see that dad cares for the child, and we tried to work with them to try to keep the child in. And this was over a period of time, a few months, where we tried to preserve. But because the incidences just kept on happening and we couldn't keep the child safe there, we had to remove. And so I think sometimes this is a challenge of the work. Right? We want to work with families as much as possible, but at the end of the day, we really have to prioritize what's right for the child.
Correct. Because you never know that when it's going to escalate from the mother to the child.
And actually, we already started seeing some impact as well, right? Because of the injury.
So that one is neglect lah. Not like he purposely abused the child lah.
But the child actually had a lot of, I think, signs of trauma as well. He was crying a lot in the household. He was very scared around people. And actually, he was also showing signs of some delays as well because of how isolated he was. And I think even to the extent where he almost got injured because there were incidences of violence where the parents would throw things around the house. The ending is that the child is safe, right? And the mom sees the child regularly. I think she's been working on herself to try to have a bit more safety for herself. So we have not been able to engage the dad to the end of
until now.
Yes, to this day. But I think the good thing is that at least the mom and the child are trying to work on creating safety for themselves. So I think mom has made some shifts also, right? She's been able to get more support for herself. Like what I mentioned, actually when we see that she's away from the father, we see some changes as well. She makes some improvements as well.
So now the 3 kids are with her or still with?
So the older 2 are still the grandparents and they're safe there. So that's good.
Okay.
Grandparents are able to care.
So above all is safety lah.
Thank
you so much to the 3 of you. Hearing all of you today, I'm reminded that while domestic violence is tough to talk about, I'm glad we have this conversation, you know, and thank you so much for taking time off to share your work. Today I realized, well, in my research for this episode, I realized there's a lot of people involved. They say it takes a village to raise a child. I think it really takes a country here to unwrap the domestic violence and to eradicate domestic violence. To everyone watching, from the bottom of Irene Ang's heart, domestic violence isn't just an agency, government, organisation, ministry's duty or responsibility. It's not a private matter just because it's domestic. I feel that it's a public matter because it could happen to anyone, staying on your left or right. It could happen to anyone of any income status. If there's nothing, you don't know what to do, and you suspect something, you only have to remember the NAVH number, okay? And the NAVH number is 1-800-777-0000. Yay! Thank you everyone for joining us for this episode of the Irene Ang Show. And let's break the silence together. Next episode, we're going to dive deeper, meeting a true survivor as well as Ronak and a special VIP guest. See you next week. Please remember to like, subscribe and share today's episode if you like it. Okay? I mean, of course you like it lah, huh? Okay? Bye-bye!